Al-Hilal, again, they're going to be flying the flag for Saudi Arabia in the Club World Cup. They want to have a big statement signing. They want to have a new toy to show off as well, especially in that first game against Real Madrid, which will be such a high-profile occasion. They are not giving up trying to sign Bruno Fernandes. Manchester United have made it clear the player is not for sale. He's our captain. He's starting for them in their friendly against Hong Kong today. But, of course, Al-Hilal are backed by the Saudi Arabia Sovereign Wealth Fund. They have incredible riches behind them. Not only that, I've been told that Al-Hilal have a degree of autonomy when it comes to transfers as well. They've got other sources of wealth. So as well as being controlled by PIF in Saudi Arabia, they have other very, very wealthy backers as well. And for a long time, they've wanted to sign Bruno Fernandes, and they are putting incredible riches on offer. You know, he's said to earn somewhere between £200,000 and £300,000 a week at Manchester United, one of the highest earners at Old Trafford. But if you take into account tax, you know, half of that is tax. So his take-home pay is probably going to be around £150,000 a week. What the Saudis are saying is come to Riyadh, play for Al-Hilal. We will pay you at least £700,000 a week.
Tax?
Free.
Oh.
I think if you stay in Saudi Arabia, if you stay out of the UK for, is it 2 years, then it is all tax-free as long as he doesn't come back to the UK. And you would think he's from Portugal. So if he goes from Manchester to Riyadh, I don't think he's going to necessarily want to come back to the UK. So £700,000 tax-free. To be fair to Bruno Fernandes, he has not agitated for a move. He is not saying, I want to leave. I don't think he's motivated by money. But the big issue here is that he's 30. He's going to be 31 soon. And even though United are saying he's not for sale, we know what the financial situation is at Manchester United. And if Al-Hilal were to put €100 million on the table in front of Manchester United, United would have a big decision to make.
And so too with Bruno Fernandes. There's big money, and money tends to talk in football, as we know.
Exactly. I mean, it would be a big wrench for United supporters if Bruno Fernandes was to leave, because he's the one shining light at United. He's the one player who you think is still a world-class player. But because he's so good, clubs like Al-Hilal are going to be interested in signing him. And I don't think it's all doom and gloom at United, because they're about to wrap up a deal to sign Matheus Cunha from Wolves by paying his release clause. So even if Bruno Fernandes was to leave, at least you would have Cunha to look forward to watching.
And obviously this is a club that they've been pretty open about money being tight. So if you want to bring players in, then some players have to make way. Fans would say maybe not the best player, but he's the one that brings in the most money. It's interesting, isn't it? We'll have to watch this space. Manchester United and the future of their captain Bruno Fernandes. We now understand that Al-Hilal haven't given up on bringing him to the Saudi Pro League, and they want that deal done before the Club World Cup, which starts soon, June the 15th. Well, Fernandes joined United in 2020. It is the club's position that their captain is not for sale, but reports emerged last night that his agent, Miguel Pino, is in the Saudi capital for Riyadh for talks over a deal. Now, Pino does represent several Premier League players, including Liverpool's Luis Diaz, who's also been linked with a move to Saudi. Well, this was Bruno Fernandes speaking after the Europa League final defeat to Tottenham just last week. He said, I've always said I'll be here until the club says to me it's time to go. I'm eager to do more, to be able to bring the club to the great days. But I've always said, and I keep my word in the same way, on the day that the club thinks I'm too much or it's time to part ways, football is like this, and you never know it. If the club thinks it's time to part ways because they want to do some cashing in or whatever, it is what it is. And football, sometimes, is like this. Interesting quotes at the time, and perhaps more interesting now with what we know. The United captain signed a new deal just last summer. That takes him to 2027, and the club have an option to extend that by a further year. Reports of interest from Saudi Arabia have been around for a while for Bruno Fernandes. Speaking earlier this month, his boss, Ruben Amorim, was quite clear he wants him to stay.
I think it's easy to understand that, not just because of the numbers, but the way he plays, the importance that he has during his 5 years, I think, here, He's a top player. We need the top players. He's a leader. He's the captain. So he's really important. It's normal that there's a lot of clubs that want a player like Bruno, like Garnacho, like others, but we want to keep the best players. And Bruno is clearly one of the top players in the world. So our idea didn't change. We want Bruno here.
Yeah, what a player he is. Have a look at these numbers. They show just how important Bruno Fernandes was to Manchester United this season. Despite their struggles that were there for everybody to see, he ranks first for goals, assists, shots, chances created, touches and ball recoveries. Well, United had been linked with a move for the Ipswich striker Liam Delap too, but he has now decided to join Chelsea. The Blues want that deal concluded before the start of the Club World Cup.
Well, Manchester United have agreed to trigger Matheus Cunha's release clause at Wolves, and they will pay the £62.5 million in 3 instalments. What happened today is that United contacted Wolves and said we would like to trigger the clause, but we would like to pay the £62.5 million in 5 instalments. Wolves turned around and said, you've got to read the contract. It's there in black and white. We signed a new contract with the player in January. These are the terms of the contract. If you want him, this £62.5 million needs to be paid in 3 instalments over 2 years. Now, in the last few minutes, United have gone back to Wolves and said, fine, we'll accept those terms.
Didn't take very long, that, did it?
Oh, I mean, you know, United, it's a negotiation. That's the way transfers work. But ultimately, it's there in black and white. So United don't want to waste any time. They are pushing ahead to sign him. And Wolves have said, fine, that's all good. You've triggered the release clause. We will now give you permission to speak to the player and also for the player to have a medical. So if all goes well with the medical, Matheus Cunha will become a Manchester United player.
The fact that they wanted to pay in 5 instalments suggests that obviously money is a bit of an issue, as it is for a lot of clubs. But you know, Man United are not going to be in Europe next year, so they're missing out on a significant amount of money. So where have they got the cash to do what is quite a significant deal, isn't it? £62.5 million.
That's a question that a lot of people who don't support Manchester United are asking today. Where's the money coming from? We thought United were in trouble financially. We thought they'd missed out on the Champions League, potentially £100 million. How come straight away they can afford to sign Matheus Cunha? Well, obviously, the £62.5 million is not being paid in one lump sum. Like most transfers, it's been paid in instalments, and it's going to be 3 instalments of £21 million. Now, for a club the size of Manchester United, you would have to say that is affordable. Of course, they have got financial fair play, PSR concerns like all other clubs. Of course, players will be leaving Manchester United this summer as well, but Cunha won't be the only signing. I think they will make other signings, but the signings really have to work, because you speak to a lot of people in football and they will tell you Manchester United's recruitment has just not been good enough. Now, Matheus Cunha has had a very good season for Wolves. OK, he's making it into the Champions League. He still thinks United are one of the biggest clubs in the world. A couple of months ago, we were told that he loves Manchester United. It's one of his dreams to play for Manchester United. And it looks like his dream is about to come true. One final word I'd like to say from Wolves' perspective, because they've played this very, very well indeed. If you go back to January, we were reporting that Cunha was unhappy, his head had been turned by interest from other clubs. Yeah. What Wolves did is say, first things first, you need to stay here and help us avoid relegation and stay in the Premier League. What we're going to do is give you a new contract with improved wages, but there's also going to be this release clause that you want. So if it comes to you leaving, we get what we believe is a very, very good fee for you. We're happy, you're happy, and it remains to be seen in the long term whether Manchester United turn out to be happy as well. But on paper, it looks like a good deal for everyone.
Guilty. I said that in the last game. I'm always guilty of the performance of the team, no matter what. And since I'm here in the first day, I am guilty. Then the boost from the fans, I think, is something that we need, maybe.
What's your reaction to that, Mark? which part of it? Where do you start? Look, I mean, Man United. I mean, the fact that Man United are doing this tour to Malaysia and Hong Kong is because they need the money. They've made that pretty obvious. They're raising £8 million by going to the Far East, and considering they're not in Europe next season, they need the money for all sorts of reasons. But I mean, the club it's been a laughing stock for a while now, and yeah, I think that's down to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, the way that they've run things over the last 12 months. But this is just painful for the players, for the club. I mean, look, they played the ASEAN All-Stars, which I think it's the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, including Myanmar, who the goal scorer came from. So they're not the heavyweights of football. But United had gone there. They flew on Sunday night after the Villa game. I think they played maybe 60 hours later with the jet lag that comes with it. So I don't think we were expecting United to romp away with the 4 or 5-0 win. But still, to lose to this team is embarrassing. But the players don't want to be there, and they've every right not to want to be there, considering the season they've had. They've had a terrible season. The club paid the wage, so they have to go. But if United want to prepare for next season, they really should give the players a break, have them a clear summer, clear the heads, and come back early July with, you know, the objective of doing a lot better than this season. But instead, they're basically going around the Far East with the collection team, trying to raise some money to pay the bills.
Yeah, Robbo, your reaction to what Mark said and what we just saw, the booing off, Ruben Amorim saying it's not such a bad thing.
I mean, Ruben Amorim has to say something to a press conference, and whenever I hear him speak, he's almost asking for himself to be sacked, isn't he, at times? But Mark's absolutely right. The players and the club shouldn't be in the Far East at the moment. They've just come off a long season, a bad season. Name any player that would want to be there and play to a high level and have to play with intensity when they're absolutely shattered from the season they've just had. It's a ridiculous thing, and they're only doing it for money, and it's no surprise that they didn't play particularly well. So I've got no complaints about Manchester United's performance. It's about the club taking them there in the first place.
Yeah, the last thing they need right now, that trip. They're in Hong Kong now.
I cannot imagine what it would have been like playing a friendly the week after the season just finished. I can't imagine any team that I've been in would have put up any kind of performance with that, or would not have just been worthy of being booed off. Yeah, accept it as a friendly and, you know, a bit of fun and that's it. But to expect any kind of performance, I think it's pretty ridiculous. And to Robert's point, Amorim, you point a camera and give him a mic, he's got to say something, got to reference booing at some point. But let's be honest, nobody cares. It's an embarrassment, to everybody's point. It's an embarrassment that Manchester United have to be there. That as a football club, they have to play these ridiculous friendlies.
Yeah, it is. You know who has been working all year round, though?
Who's that?
Mark Ogden.
Oh, he needs a rest.
Many an article he's provided for us on ESPN.com. One of them, the examples of United players thriving once they leave the club. Now, obviously, one of the big names right now this season is Scott McTominay, who didn't just win the Scudetto with Napoli. He was named Serie A MVP as well. Mark, are there any concerns that Alejandro Garnacho is going to be a player that's going to be on this list if a similar article is written in the future?
I know that a lot of fans are concerned about that, and Kobbie Mainoo as well, two of the young players that have come through. And I think both right now have got shortcomings in the game, and they haven't kicked on. But, you know, you look at Garnacho and you think, when Cristiano Ronaldo was a similar age, you know, 19, 20, he was very inconsistent and infuriating at times. And that's the same with Garnacho. But Ronaldo was able to develop because he had players like Rio Ferdinand, Roy Keane, Nemanja Vidic, Ruud van Nistelrooy around him. Alejandro Garnacho's not got any of that. He's having to basically improve in the worst Man United team in living memory. So, listen, I'm not convinced that Garnacho will become a top player, but I think you have to give him the opportunity. And maybe he needs to leave United like Scott McTominay, like Anthony Elanga, like Dean Henderson, to basically flourish somewhere else and get the coaching and the kind of support they need somewhere else. But I think there's every chance that Garnacho will leave because he's a player that United can get rid of and get good money for. And obviously, with being a homegrown player, they'll get that as full profit on the accounts. It's the same with Kobbie Mainoo. I don't think Mainoo quite fits the Amorim system. He's not quick enough really between the boxes. So he may go as well. But I think if you find the right team for him as well, again, he could kick on and embarrass United in years to come. But I think I came up with 9 players that have had a season this year, which is much better than it would have been if they stayed at United. And that's not good. Players used to leave Man United and basically go down. They leave Man United and go up now. And that isn't where a club like United should be.
Now, obviously, Garnacho is one of the players left out of the matchday squad for the final game of the Premier League season. Another was Andre Onana, the goalkeeper for Manchester United. So what's ahead for him, Mark?
It's an uncertain summer for Onana. Listen, we know that United haven't got a lot of money right now, and the fact that they're not in the Champions League. I was told they had enough money to do Cunha and Delap. Well, obviously Delap is going to happen, but they will have to find another backup option as a striker to come in. I've been told Brian Mbeumo at Brentford is an option, but slightly different player to Højlund, but he's a player I think they can get. But if they're going to bring in the goalkeeper, and they're going to have to get rid of people, and I don't really see a big market for Andre Onana, but they do need a good goalkeeper. But it may be a situation whereby there's 3 or 4 other issues that they need to address first before they can address the goalkeeper. So Onana might survive, but they have to do something, because with Onana and Bayanda, they just got 2 goalkeepers who are too inconsistent. So if you had a better backup keeper for Onana, would that improve him? Or if you have a better number 1 that Onana could understudy? Because you can't go into next season with Andre Onana and Altay Bayanda as your goalkeepers, because they just make too many mistakes, consistently make mistakes.
New goalkeeper at Manchester United, is that what's needed?
Yes, I listen. I've tried to back Andre Onana. I just don't think he's settled in, and he's been anywhere near as consistent as United need right now. The question around players both coming and going around Manchester United remains the same. It's all about the finances. You paid, what, 50 million for him. Are you going to get that back for Andre Onana? I don't think you will. And given the financial circumstance, given the fact that you have to go out to Asia now, a week after the season is finished, in an effort just to boost your coffers, you might end up blowing all that in having to sell Andre Onana at a cut rate price, and then trying to get somebody else to replace.
Who's a realistic option, though? Yeah.
Mike Maignan, I've been saying, is the most realistic option for many a club for quite some time. This last few months, he's had some uncharacteristic slips to what has been an otherwise very solid game. And maybe that has shifted focus to other goalkeepers. But to your point, who's the realistic option? While it's easy for me to say Mike Maignan, we are talking about he's still the French number 1. Is he going to want to go to a club that, for the same reason that the lap turned Manchester United down, finished 16th, no Champions League football, no European football. You're not really quite sure where the direction that they're going right now. That's not an attractive option for any player who has other clubs that may or may not be interested.
Who would be realistic, Mark? Who's been talked about?
Well, the names that have been talked about are quite surprising. I mean, Martinez has been mentioned, which I'd be very surprised to get over the line, but he is the bookies' favourite to go to Man United. So I will be surprised if they got that one done. Juan Garcia at Espanyol is a name that keeps getting mentioned about a move to the Premier League, to Arsenal as number 2 to Real. But again, he's a young goalkeeper that's very promising. Maignan, again, is a keeper that has been linked. And I think, Milan are in a bit of a situation like United, aren't they, whereby they haven't got the money, they're out of Europe. So that deal might appeal to Maignan in the sense that he'd probably get a better salary at United. I think an interesting one, but I just don't see it happening, but I think he'd be ideal for United, is Kvin Kelleher. But I just don't see Liverpool selling their number 2 to Man United. But Kelleher wants to move, he wants to play. Brentford have been linked with Kelleher, but, Man United would be a much better option for him. But I just don't see... Well, Man United and Liverpool don't trade players, do they? But I think in terms of for a goalkeeper that's proved himself in the Premier League, it will be relatively inexpensive at around £20 million. Kelleher to United would be a good deal. But like I said, the history between the clubs is such that they just don't do deals.
Let's continue with the theme of the article then, if we can, Mark. Obviously, Anthony went out on loan in January to Betis. And speaking of thriving, he's definitely done that there. What's the thought on what's next for him?
He didn't play well last night, though, did he? And that's the issue with Anthony, that up against the Premier League defence and, the strength and athleticism of Premier League teams, he doesn't thrive. So, but he's done enough at Betis to, certainly enhance his reputation and either seal another loan back to Betis, but United want to sell. So you just wonder whether he's done enough to generate interest from a bigger club than Betis. Would Atletico be interested? I just don't see it. So I think with Anthony, I think you're looking at maybe another loan deal to Betis, but United want to get a permanent deal at this stage. I don't think Betis can afford it. So there's going to be a bit of negotiating to be done on that one.
Talking about negotiating, what about Marcus Rashford and the rumours that he could be going to Barcelona? Or where?
That would be a dream move for him and for Man United, because it means that they would find a club that would pay what they want for him, which is around £40 million. But I mean, every time Barcelona are linked with Marcus Rashford, I'm surprised, I'm staggered, because I don't see how he fits in. Well, he doesn't fit in, does he? That front three of Lewandowski, Yamal and Rafinha, where does Marcus Rashford play? He's on the bench, but if Barcelona give him the opportunity to go there, then I'm sure he'd take it, because he would try and work his way in. But I don't think he wants to go back to Aston Villa. But he won't have many options. That's the reality of Marcus Rashford. In January, there weren't many options for him, because he's on a huge contract, 3 years left on a contract worth, £325,000 a week. He's not been playing well. He didn't do that well at Villa. He scored 2 goals. He didn't have a great season at Villa, whereby he proved himself to be the Marcus Rashford of old. So, if Barcelona happens, then that would be a fantastic move for everybody involved, but maybe not Barcelona.
Anything else, Mark, to mention? Jadon Sancho? Anyone else that stands out to you right now?
Well, Sancho is probably going to happen to Chelsea, which again is good news for United, because it means that they'll get, I think, around £25 million for Sancho. So in a summer where they need to offload players, then that is great news. But, I think a lot of players will be looking over the shoulder at United right now. I think we know that Lindelof, Eriksen and Johnny Evans have left in terms of free agency. But, if I was Luke Shaw or other players that have not really had a convincing time, I'd be thinking, have I got a future at the club? But it's just getting off the books, because a lot of these players are underperforming and overpaid, as Sir Jim Ratcliffe said 2 or 3 months ago. But it's hard to get rid of those players, because nobody wants to take them on.
Has there anything that stood out to you, Robbo, from this whole conversation on these Manchester United players?
Yes, I'll go back to the argument, and you were sitting there with Don Hutchinson I had a little while ago. There's something that goes on at Manchester United that good players, when they come to the club and everyone's going, oh, that's a good sign, and yeah, you can understand him doing well, you can understand why Manchester United have bought him, and those players don't perform. So something is going wrong on the coaching field, something's wrong with the environment at Manchester United, and that's what they have to be careful with. Onana, who we were talking about earlier, when he came to Manchester United 2 years ago, everybody was saying, what a keeper he is. Look at his performances in the Champions League for Inter. He was outstanding. He's got so much composure on the ball. He comes and gets things in the air. He makes great saves. He's the top-class goalkeeper in the world, people were saying. But, of course, it hasn't worked out for him, and now they're trying to get rid of him again. So there's a lot of things that are wrong with the recruitment, of course. But there's something more wrong with the club. The fundamental of the club and the training ground and what's going on is the problem at Manchester United. And the first thing I would do is they've got to get in a manager that's going to make the players better and make sure they do a good job. Amorim, for me, he's not done it. He's played his own system. He's not worried about whether the players fit into that system. And they're going to do the same again. They're going to give him probably a couple of players to go and buy. He'll do that. He'll try and get his system working. It won't work. He'll get the sack. And they've got another couple of players that don't fit in. It's a big, big time for Manchester United during the summer.
To that point, and while I agree with Robbo, and it's easy to question the coaching setup or look at that as being the first port of call in terms of addressing these issues. This very issue has plagued many a manager over the last few years. So while Manchester United have changed managers looking for that solution, not just the players who've kind of underperformed, but also Amorim. Look at his record before coming to Old Trafford. Ticked all the boxes, and then all of a sudden arrives and has you scratching your head around what he's saying in press conferences, around the team's performances, around what they're doing tactically. There is just something fundamentally wrong that while we were talking about players leaving Old Trafford and going to other clubs and doing well, it would not surprise me in the slightest to see managers doing exactly the same. Cue Erik ten Hag.
Yes.